it's Curly Proverbs and welcome to my very first ever story time. I'm really excited to be doing a story time, and it is basically about the time when I nearly got shot. And this happened when I was about 9 years old and I was living in West Africa. I pretty much was there when a civil war started, and it was a really crazy time. So the particular incident I wanted to talk to you about happened when I was at my mum and dad's house. Myself and all my siblings were at home, and my mum and some of the people that worked at our house, because we had a driver and we had a what do you call it, like an au pair. So we had a driver, we had an au pair, and we had a cook. And you know, not because I'm anything special, but it's just like in Sierra Leone it's easier to do than it would be out here. I do not have any of those people working for me where I live in the UK now, but in Sierra Leone we did have people that worked at our home. So basically we were home and we lived in like a 3-story house, but we only rented out the top apartment. So we lived in like the top apartment, which is pretty much a house in itself. I think it had like 3-4 bedrooms, had several baths, etc. So it looked like quite an impressive house from the outside. So they must have thought, the people that came to our home must have thought that we were loaded. So they rocked up to our house. Bear in mind, there's 3 floors. We occupy the top floor. Nobody else lives on the bottom 2 floors. Those apartments were not being rented out or anything like that. And they come to the home, and these guys were dressed in soldiers' uniform. And I don't know if you would call them, if they were deserters, if they actually worked in the army, if they were rebels. I do not know to this day. But the civil war was happening. Things were kicking off, and here we were with soldiers in our house with magazines of bullets. Let me get this gun right. It probably is an AK something. They had grenades in their attached to their belts. Like they had like the whole thing going, like, and in army uniform and bullets, and was very intimidating. And there were 2 guys that came up into our apartment, and there were some guys that were downstairs as well, should anyone come, I guess, as lookouts or whatever. And so these guys rock up into our house, and we kind of thought that they were an official business because they're dressed as soldiers, and you know, they looked so legit. And maybe they were, and they came to our house, and you know, they were allowed in because, as you would do, you would trust somebody in uniform, right? And so they come to the house and they're like, we want to speak to the lady of the house. And my mum's like, yeah, that's me, can I help you, officers? And they were like, give us all the money you have in the house. And we were like really, I guess, shocked, surprised, not expecting it. My mum was really shocked. And we had not, I guess it wouldn't quantify as very much. We had 1,000 leones in the house at the time, and I'm not sure, it's not worth very much now, and I'm not sure that it was worth very much then either, but maybe it was like the equivalent of like £100 at the time. And so they were really shocked that we didn't have that much money in the house, because they were like, look at this big house. First off, they were really shocked that it was a black woman that owned the house. They were expecting to come and find a Lebanese woman in the house, and you know, it was a black woman. And they were really shocked. They kept asking my mum, and again, are you sure you don't just work here? Are you sure you're the mistress of the house? Are you sure you're the lady of the house? And my mum was like, yes, this is my house. And so anyway, they kept pestering because they thought that we were holding back money from them, and they were like, you know, give us more money, give us more money. We had nothing. Literally, this is what we have, you can take it. It's really not worth anyone getting killed over money. Just take what you want. You can take anything you want in the house and go. Now at this point, my aunt was actually also in the house, and when I say aunt, she was more like a family friend. At this point, I found this hilarious. What was wrong with me? I thought I was invincible. Here I was, a 9-year-old girl just about to turn 9 or just turned 9, and I've seen this in the movies 1,000 times. I'm not really gonna get hurt. I'm not really gonna get shot, right? So I start like laughing. I'm like, no, you know, trying to laugh off what he was doing. And he got really serious and really angry. And then he pointed the gun at me. And he told my aunt, you shut her up before I shut her up with this gun. Okay. So then I was like taking it a lot more seriously. I was like, okay, this guy isn't playing. This is really happening. This is not a movie. Just seriously, this is not a film. This is really happening. So they got their money, and you know, they had a good look to see if they could find any more, and then they left the house. And there were, as I say, the soldiers downstairs. The ones that were upstairs the ones that were upstairs went downstairs, and then they left the premises. At this point, we had sent somebody, because something was up with the phone lines. We couldn't get through to my dad's office. My dad was at work. Of course, they waited until the man of the house was not in the house to rock up in there, because obviously, just to make it easy, prey on a woman and children. Yeah, great. So we got a message to my dad. Somehow one of the guys that were working at the house got down to my dad's office and told him what happened, and my dad came as quick as he could. And my dad was quite connected at the time with people in power, I guess, you know, the head of the army. And literally my mum went down with him straight off to try and identify these guys, to see if that she could find the guys at the local barracks. And no luck. Of course, they're not going to go back to where you would expect to find soldiers. So we weren't able to locate these guys. But there was so much crazy stuff that was happening at the time. It was atrocious. I know that an uncle, a relative of my grandmother, actually was decapitated. He had his head taken clean off his body and marched through the streets as an example. People were getting killed left, right and centre. There were curfews. When I was actually at school, before this incident happened, we were at school and there was a warning put out on the radio that there was an attack imminent on my school. My sister said that her classroom came under fire. Obviously I wasn't in my sister's classroom at the time, so I didn't actually see it myself. But I remember actually being hurried into the library of the school, which was in the basement of the school. We were hurried out very quietly, almost like a fire drill, as quickly as we could into the basement. And then from the basement, there had been an announcement put out on the radio for people to go and collect their kids from school. And my driver was waiting for me in the basically pretty much in the bush, in the outback. There was like a very sort of green, rural, bush-like, forest-like area behind the school. And so we kind of went out through the library, out at the back exit of the school rather than the main entrance to get out, and we went home. So school was completely cancelled. It was absolute chaos. And I know that in a nursery at the end of my road, rebel soldiers had actually gone into that nursery and they had asked people, or they had brutalized people first off, and then they asked if people wanted to have short or long sleeves. And if you asked for long sleeve, they cut off your hands here. And if you asked for short sleeve, they cut your hand off here. And when I think about it, it's really quite tough for me to talk about now, because at the end of the day, that happened to children who were like 4, who were at nursery at the bottom of my road. And that could have easily have been me at school that had happened to. That is pretty much why I came to move to the UK, because it was just becoming so dangerous that people who could get out, they did get out. and we were able to come here. We were able to come to the UK. I had been born in the UK, and we'd actually gone over to Sierra Leone for my dad's business, and he was doing so well. He'd built so much up, and they basically, you know, ended up looting so much of our property. We had like a convertible Jeep which was set alight. Luckily our house was still there, because my dad actually was building a house while we were renting, and that was fine, nothing was done to that. So it was a really crazy time to live through. I'm not doing justice to the situation, and I wouldn't want to I guess go into too much because it was crazy. But basically it was time to get out. It was time to get out of Sierra Leone. It was time to get out for our lives. People who were wealthier were being targeted. People who were poor and vulnerable were being targeted. I mean, everyone was, it was a bloodbath in some places. So that was crazy. And yeah, so this is why I lived in the UK. I did go back and visit when I was about 11. Things kind of calmed down. And for some reason or other, every time I've kind of planned to go out there, it hasn't actually happened. So I am hoping that I will get to go back. But again, as I was planning another trip, Ebola outbreak in West Africa. So we decided to kind of delay that. But I'm hoping that I will get to go back and visit, because Sierra Leone will always be home for me. I went to school there for many years. I had childhood experiences, you know, living at a beach house, and you know, in some ways it was really quite a charmed life. So yeah, that is my story of how I almost got shot, and how I survived a civil war. So yeah, guys, if any of you have happened to have, well, makes sense. So guys, if any of you have got anything to say about this, please comment below. If you've had a similar experience of surviving a civil war, or if you've had a similar experience of living in a war zone, or being shot at, or somebody, you know, holding a gun to you, then please comment below. Just to end the video on a more positive note, well, this is not positive by any means. Like, why am I saying this? This nearly being shot happened to me twice, okay? This is crazy. This is crazy. But when we would go out to the beach house for our protection, my dad would take a pistol. It was a big, very heavy pistol that, you know, you kind of spin the barrel and you put the bullets into. And he would keep it at his bedside table because, well, just in case anything kicked off, he wanted to be able to reach it and go to wherever any drama was happening, if anything happened, because we were at the beach house. Is very isolated. It was a private beach, and there was loads of outback and jungle areas or forest areas nearby, and anything could go down and nobody would find us for months probably. So he would always take a gun with us, and my brother went into the drawer and found this gun, and he was probably, I would say, 3 at the time, and he thought it was a toy gun. So here he rocks up into the living room. The whole family's packing away after breakfast. My mum's in the kitchen, I think my dad's in the kitchen too, and I'm in the corridor, and here comes my brother with a gun, and he's like, bang, bang. The gun is loaded. He's pointing it at me. How wrong could that have gone? Luckily we were like, Brad, that is actually a real gun. We were like trying to explain to him, don't shoot. We had to talk him out of the gun. Needless to say, after that incident, my dad always kept the gun in the safe. But yeah, crazy story. Nearly got shot twice. Once by my own brother, and survived the civil war. I hope you found that story time interesting. Comment below. I love talking to you guys, and I'm definitely going to be working on commenting and replying to more of your comments as they come in. So peace guys, have a great day, and be sure to subscribe and like this video if you liked it, so more people can see it and hopefully check it out as well. Okay guys, take care, blessings, bye.